Fresh, sweet, sour, spicy, this dish has it all. And if you love ceviche, today is your day. Let's begin. We're going to start by making our sauce. Hot pan, neutral oil, 1 whole yellow bell pepper, medium dice, a little bit of carrot, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of ginger, and we want to sweat these, but not color them. We want these to be lightly sweated, fully cooked, but no color. This sauce we want to make sure that we season beforehand. I'm now adding some Tabasco. Then add a little bit of lemon juice, about a tablespoon. Mix that in. I'm now going to add some cold water. You don't want to cover the vegetables completely, but almost. And we're going to put the lid back on and let that cook. So it's been about 10 minutes, and our vegetables look like they're just about cooked. But we're going to check them using a paring knife. So check all the different types of vegetables. The carrots will take the longest to cook, so make sure those are well done. If the vegetables aren't well done, it won't be a smooth sauce. You'll have pieces. So it's all cooked. Now we're going to mix it. So we're going to mix it now. It's also important to keep in mind that this should be mixed while it's still hot, because if it's not, if you let it cool down, it won't be a smooth consistency. You'll have pieces, and that's no good. Another thing to keep in mind when you're making a sauce like this is that it's actually better to have it a bit on the thick side rather than on the thin side when you're adjusting, if you have to adjust. If it's thick, you can always add a bit more stock or a bit of water, adjust the seasoning. But if it's too thin, it's a lot more difficult. So towards the end, mix in a bit of olive oil, just about a tablespoon. This will help make the sauce a bit more smooth. Let's check our consistency. This is a little bit thin, but it's smooth. And we added some of the olive oil earlier. And it's still quite hot. So we're going to put this in the fridge, and when it cools down, it will be the perfect consistency, I'm sure. It'll be creamy, not too thick, velvety, just what we want. So now we're going to make our guacamole. I'm going to start by splitting an avocado in two, remove the pit, and you need a ripe avocado for this. Best way to do this is take a spoon and kind of work the flesh away from the skin like this. So this is not going to be a traditional guacamole. We're looking for a nice smooth sauce today. We're going to basically make a mayonnaise with the avocado instead of an egg. So put 2 halves into a container like this, a little bit of lemon juice, some seasoning, tiny bit of olive oil, and we're going to mix it. So just like a mayonnaise, we're going to start slow. So we're going to mix all of these ingredients together to a fine paste here, and then we're going to slowly add a neutral flavored oil and make a mayonnaise type sauce. So I'm just squirting a little bit in at a time. Just like a mayonnaise, this sauce can split if you add too much oil at once, and it's pretty gross. So for 1 avocado this size, I'm adding about 150 to 200 milliliters of neutral oil. So right towards the end here, I'm going to add a tiny bit of smoked paprika, and it's important that you add this towards the end, because if you mix it in with everything in the beginning, it will make your sauce brown, so keep that in mind. Now is the time to prepare our fish. Today I'm using dorade. You might know it as sea bream. Make sure the flesh is really clean. You don't want any of the stomach or membrane or anything like that. Nice, clean fish fillet. So we're going to start by taking out the bones, just going along where the spine used to be. So just keep going back and forth until you feel that there's no more bones. Just check a couple of times. in mind that there's usually a lot of bones towards the head side of the fillet, so double check. Once you've rid your fillet of bones, it's time to remove the skin. So you want to make sure the fish and your cutting board are relatively dry, and we're going to start by making a small incision at the tail end of the fillet, just enough that we can grab on it, and we're going to tug. We're going to tug the skin rather than slice. More force on the skin pulling away than slicing forward, and you'll get a nice clean result like this. Next, we want to remove any of the red looking flesh, because this contains a lot more blood and it has more of a fishy taste. And when it's not cooked, served raw, it's not a nice flavor at all. So that needs to go. Also important at this stage that we keep everything as clean as possible. So I'm going to start by cutting the fillet in half, lengthwise, because that's where most of the bloodline is. Rather than a sawing motion, you want to make nice, long, clean cuts. This will prevent your fish from breaking apart. So you can see how red the center was, but there's still a little bit more that we need to trim off. If you look at the skin side, you'll see there's still a bit of red there, so I'm just slicing that off. You want to keep going until you've gotten all of the bloodline out and all of that red flesh in between the skin and the fish. So now we're going to portion. You can cut ceviche in any size you want, but I prefer nice large chunks. You reserve some of the texture of the fish. You can cut it in small dice if you want, but I find you lose the natural texture of the fish. So, reserved your portioned fish. You can see the size there. You want to keep them about the same size as well, if you can. So we're going to leave this in the fridge until we're ready to marinate. Okay, so all the other mise en place is done, and we're ready to start the marinade. First, you're going to add some lime zest. And then we're going to shave a couple of roasted peanuts, about 2 or 3. Next, we're going to add red bell pepper, small dice. Then some sliced jalapenos, then some chives, and then some shallots. Next, add mango, medium dice, and kiwi, medium dice. Next, add about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, a bit of seasoning, and now we're going to add some herbs. We're just going to tear apart some cilantro. Just make sure there's no stems, you just want the leaves. Also going to add some lavender flowers. I have some in the garden at the moment, so I'm just going to throw those in. So now we want to mix this very well, but we don't want to bruise any of the soft, delicate ingredients. So mix well, but gently at the same time. Gonna add a tiny bit more lemon juice on top and a bit more olive oil. One misconception about making ceviche is that you need to marinate your fish for a long time, and this is simply not true. I've seen some recipes that call to marinate your fish for 1, 2, 3 hours, or even overnight, and that is way too long. Your fish, if you do that, your fish will be overcooked, dry. It won't even taste like fish anymore. It'll be just dry, rubbery pieces. It Really depends on the type of fish you're using, but I think for most recipes, between 5 and 10 minutes is the perfect amount of time. So I've sped this footage up, and it's been about 5 minutes at this point. And if you look closely, you can see that the pieces of fish are no longer translucent. They are slightly white on the outside. So at this point, they've been lightly cooked, they've been marinated. It's exactly what we want. So we're ready to plate now. I'm also going to add a few pieces of avocado. We're going to begin by adding the sauce. As you can see, the sauce is thickened up a bit since it's been in the fridge. Give the bottom of the plate a bit of a tap. This will get rid of all of the air bubbles inside. Rather than just dumping everything as a pile, we're going to build. So we're going to take a little bit of each flavor and we're going to create levels. In between each level, we're going to put a bit of mayonnaise and a bit of guacamole, just little dots of it everywhere. Also, if there's extra, be careful if there's any extra juice when you're spooning the ceviche into the plate, because if there's too much, it might split your sauce. Just gonna put a bit more guacamole, a bit more mayonnaise, and we're going to put some radish coins. Next, I'm going to put some fried shallots. And then I'm going to put some flowers and some herbs on top. So today I have a melon flower. It's a male flower, so it's not going to turn into fruit anyway. And I have some wild oxalis, putting a couple leaves here and there, and some sorrel, and some cilantro. If you don't have all these ingredients, it's not a big issue. Use what's in season, use what's available, use what's fresh. And if you do that, you'll have a perfect plate every time. And there we are. Look at that. So let's look at what we have here. We have a sauce, sweet, sour, spicy, tangy. We have fresh fish that's been lightly marinated, lightly cooked. We have a myriad of herbs and vegetables. Crunchy, crispy, soft. Each bite of this dish will be a different flavor and a different texture, and they will all complement one another in the end. I think that's the secret to a great ceviche. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to see further recipes and techniques, please like and subscribe. Happy cooking!